Today we will take a quick tour through the fascinating Middle Ages. What battles were fought? What heroes made their mark? And what plagues laid waits to its people? Let's find out. When we speak of the Middle Ages, we are referring to a period of history from the 5th to the 15th century. This is a period heavily misunderstood by the general population, thinking it was just full of violence, of wars and diseases. Many also believe that during this time, society, education, and the arts went backward. But the period represented much more than that. Christianity spread. The Crusades happened. We had the 100-Year War, the signing of the Magna Carta, and Geoffrey Chaucer's writings, to name but a few. Now, we'll be exploring some key events from the fall of the Roman Empire to the beginning of the Renaissance. The Roman Empire once controlled much of Europe, Northern Africa, and also parts of the Middle East, but it just grew too large to manage. Civil wars and internal conflicts weakened Rome. Their citizens became divided. Sound familiar? A weakened Roman Empire represented an opportunity for other groups in Europe. The Germanic tribes and Visigoths saw Rome's vulnerability as their chance to strike. Alaric, a leader of the Goths, delivered the final blow to the Roman Empire. Furious that the Roman Emperor refused to keep his promise of granting his people Roman citizenship and territories in the Balkans, Alaric was determined to claim what was promised. He formed a massive army comprised of Goths, Huns, and former Roman slaves who marched across the Alps and into Italy to confront the Roman Emperor Honorius. Despite warnings from his advisors, Honorius, a foolish and self-centered leader, ignored the approaching threat and stayed in his villa. Alaric cut off the supply chain to the city and waited for it to weaken before launching his attack. The Roman Empire finally fell in 476, and this marked the start of the Middle Ages. The Byzantines gained power after Rome's fall. Their empire was centered in Constantinople, located in what is today modern Istanbul in Turkey. This was sort of like a new Rome, but after Constantine died, the Byzantine Empire split. In the southern eastern part of Europe, a charismatic leader and extraordinary military strategist named Charlemagne used his power and armies to unite much of Western Europe. As the son of a king and destined to become a king himself, Charlemagne conquered the Saxons, a powerful Germanic tribe, and forced them to convert to Christianity. Despite his success in uniting a large portion of Europe, the empire Charlemagne built could not survive his death. The fragmentation of his empire led to a period of feudalism, where local lords held power over small regions and pledged loyalty to a king. As armies marched to and from across Europe, Christianity continued to spread. The church's teachings were divided into two main branches: the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church. Regardless of their differences, Christianity became deeply embedded in all aspects of life for people living in the Middle Ages, becoming the most powerful institution of the time. Next, we got the Crusades, the famous quest of the Templar Knights to the Holy Land. Christians, Jews, and Muslims all felt a deep connection to the Holy Land in the Middle East. In the 11th century, Muslims expanded their territories to include many sacred religious locations. European Christians feared that these holy lands, so important to their faith, would be destroyed or blocked by Muslims. Their solution was to reclaim these lands in the name of the Church. Beginning in 1095 and lasting until 1291, devout European knights banded together to embark on crusades to Jerusalem and other key locations in the Holy Land. Powerful kings financed these knights, but as the crusades became less and less effective, these wealthy patrons began to question their return on investment. After 200 years of fighting and plundering in the Holy Lands, the crusades finally ended. Meanwhile, on the British Isles, the English were building their nation away from the conflicts of the continent. Descended from the Germanic Anglo-Saxons and influenced by the Romans, the English faced a crisis when their heir to the throne was disputed. One of the most significant moments in the history of the Middle Ages was the Battle of Hastings in the year 1066. This battle was fought to establish the rightful heir to the English crown and ushered in the Norman conquest of England. The royal succession line was established, but some kings were less interested in ruling the land than others. For example, King Richard felt it was more important to go on crusades than to deal with matters back in England. Various members of the nobility rose to fill the void left by King Richard and other monarchs just like him. But their hold on power was tenuous. Once a new king took over, these nobles were often relocated back to their previous positions, leading to resentment and conflict. In 1215, King John met with a group of noblemen to discuss possible solutions to the ongoing power struggles. They drafted the Articles of the Barons, a rough draft that later became the Magna Carta, one of the most important documents in European history. The Magna Carta ensured that the king would protect the holdings of land barons in England from outside invaders such as France. In return, the noblemen would remain loyal to the king. The noblemen's rights and roles were outlined, guaranteeing that they would retain their landholdings and political influence from one monarch to the next. Because of the Magna Carta, England became a more united country, able to focus on growing as a powerful nation. France faced a bit of turmoil when King Charles VI died without an heir. This led to the 100-Year War from the year 1337 to the year 1453. The unlikely hero during this time turned out to be a teenage girl. Joan of Arc emerged as a beacon of hope for France. Dressed in battle armor, Joan of Arc led soldiers against the English. She succeeded for a time, but was eventually captured by the English, who charged her with crimes of heresy, witchcraft, and cross-dressing. Joan was burned at the stake in 1431, and I actually made a dedicated video about her, link below. Dying in a war sounds terrible, but imagine fighting an enemy that you can't spot, an army so vast and rapidly advancing that can't even be fought. And what are the soldiers fighting in this army? Oriental rat fleas. And with this, the Middle Ages saw the arrival of the Black Death. This plague arrived in 1347. It was a cataclysmic event in European history, altering the course of society in profound ways. Known today as the Black Death, it spread with alarming speed, decimating populations and leaving towns and cities in disarray. The disease stuck with such ferocity that it killed many healthy individuals within just a week of their first symptoms. Those afflicted suffered from severe symptoms, including excruciating skin boils, relentless fevers, and violent coughing fits. In the wake of the plague, there was a noticeable shift in societal attitudes. The Church, previously seen as the ultimate authority and protector, faced intense scrutiny and skepticism. People began to question its power, seeking answers and solace outside the established religious framework. The Black Death also sparked changes in the political landscape. The traditional feudal order, already weakened by internal conflicts and power struggles, was further destabilized by the plague's devastation. As the influence of nobility waned, new political ideas and structures began to emerge, fostering a sense of individualism and civic responsibility. This change in attitudes and thinking helped bring about the end of the Dark Ages and usher a new age, the Renaissance. That was a short tour through the Middle Ages, from its start with the fall of the Roman Empire to its end with the coming of the Renaissance period. What do you think life was like during the Middle Ages? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you very much for listening to this tale. If you watched it until the end, I will assume that you liked what you saw. So please like, subscribe, comment, share the video with someone else. It's a very small button for you and a gigantic leap for my channel. Until the next tale, farewell, and may the gods smile upon you.